But that's what I mean. I've had great kids, great athletes, but also great kids.
What does swimming mean to you?
It's been a career. I love my sport. Sometimes I'd say I don't like to swim. I went through a phase like many swimmers where I don't want to get in. And then when I started hanging out at the beach more, I'm like, okay, I like swimming again, but I like it to be in open water. But I love our sport. I think everybody that spends significant time in our sport has at some point a love-hate relationship with it. So I don't know that I could really quantify it other than saying there are days, throughout my life and my career when I love it. There are days when I hate it, but you still love it and you keep coming back to it.
That I think is a passion, right? Love and anger.
Yep. But coaching wise, what I learned in going to Alabama, where it was mostly about keeping fast kids fast, is for me, it's about making a difference for kids. I think that there are coaches that are coaches and coaches that are educators. And that's what probably made me a natural fit to come to a place like Mercersburg, where we're involved in the lives of our kids on a daily basis. For me, not in the classroom, but in the college counseling room, and in my office, because I've got an office where I get to meet with kids and talk about life and where they want to be in their futures. But then in coaching and in the dormitories and in that setting, and you really get to have an influence on them all across the board. So it's not just a sport. We always say that sports are about the things that you learn that you take into your life, and there's no better place, I think, from my perspective, to do that and to have that kind of influence than in a boarding school setting.
What makes that such a unique situation, do you think?
Our head of school, Katie Titus, does a really good job when she talks to parents, talking about why boarding school. Because too often, I think, when a parent says to another parent, we're thinking about boarding school or we're sending our son or daughter to boarding school, oftentimes the first response is, well, what did they do wrong? Like, right. What did the kid do wrong? What did the parent do wrong? Why are you sending your kid away? But Katie does a really good talk and a great analogy about how, boarding schools and boarding school environments are really very much like, they're kind of like the last small town environments out there, right? Where if you live in a small town, everyone is looking out for you, for the kids. Like I grew up in a townhouse community where you could wander around day after day and all day long. I'd leave my house for summer league practice when I was little, at 9 a.m. for swim practice. And then I would wander with my friends, go to the pool and wander in a good sense, go to the pool, play tennis at the tennis courts and do all the things. Maybe we would show up at somebody's house for lunch and somebody else's for dinner. And then you'd go to bed and you do it all again the next day in the summertime. Right. And boarding schools are like that, meaning all of the adults in the community are there because they want to be there and they want to be with kids and make a difference for kids. And they want to have that impact, not just in the classroom if they're a teacher, but in other aspects as well. And for me, not just at the pool as a coach, but in all aspects of their lives. So it's a place where everyone is looking out for all of the kids by choice, right? And that when someone makes the decision to go to a boarding school, it's, are they looking for more independence? Are they looking to challenge themselves? Have they outgrown their local school or swim program in my case? Because I think in the 80s, a lot of athletes ended up at Petty and Mercersburg because they outgrew their local team, right? And I think the club swimming universe is so much better now. I hate to say it, 35 plus years later than when I was a 12, 13, 14-year-old. But so they don't need to do that in many cases. But it's still a place where you can kind of expand your horizons, gain some independence. And then one of the things that families discover is it makes some of the time at home more quality time, because the school is doing some of the things. And I'm not saying parenting, although there's the idea of in loco parentis, but that it makes that when you're home on break for a couple of weeks or home for the summer, then it becomes really, really good time with your family.
I've experienced that firsthand. I went to actually 3 different high schools. The first one was only for a few months, and it was a public high school in Maine, because I come from Maine, and then transferred and went to community high school that was very different. It was in a small fishing village in Maine. It wasn't as strong of a background. Then I transferred to Hebron Academy up in Maine, and what a difference in the experience. And just as you mentioned, I felt like everybody was trying to help me. Whereas before I felt like it was a little bit of a, disciplinary type of make sure that you don't do anything wrong. And now it was like helping you to do things that would help you, and it was really different. And I felt like everyone cared. And that was such a different experience from some of the other, and there's some great public schools too, but I found it, just like you said, it was the coaches were more engaged. You had more communication. The teachers were more engaged. You're eating dinner and they're there in the room with you, and that's their dinner too. And it's and they live down the hall or, in the dorm. It's very different. And I found from my school, just like you're saying in Mercersburg, that people really are watching out for you, and they want you to succeed, and they're helping you succeed versus processing you through. And it makes all the difference.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good way to describe it. No question.
I don't know if everyone's like that, but the experience that I had was a really tremendous experience, and it wasn't something I wanted to do at the time. I wanted to be with my friends out in the fishing village.